Hello, you've reached Gloria, and I am with Farmstead Talk, and I am here today with Jim and Jessica of the Green Dream Project. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me. I appreciate it today. Would you like to share with the audience where they can find you on social media?
Green Dream Project. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
Okay, great. So thanks for sharing, because sometimes viewers like to reach out to interviewees. So,
Yeah.
So guys, tell me, what was your inspiration for wanting to start this homestead journey?
Well, I think it was kind of a natural progression of our thinking. And for me, I think my earliest and biggest inspiration for what I would call the homesteading spirit, self-reliance and a closer connection to nature, that started with my grandparents. So they were homesteaders, though they didn't use that term. But my grandmother was a Japanese immigrant, and my grandfather was a U.S. Army veteran. And they moved from Japan, and they settled in southeastern Wisconsin. So they bought a plot of land out there. They built a house themselves. They planted some trees, they grew some food, and raised animals. And that was all to provide for themselves and their 5 kids. And one of those children was my mother. And I lived in that home for a while as an infant. And then again in my early 20s, I moved back there for a few years before I got married and found a place of my own. But that home, it was someplace special to me, and it always felt like home to me. So after I married Jim, kind of in the early years of our marriage, we went through a rough patch. The country was in an economic downturn. A lot of businesses were struggling, and Jim was laid off of his job. So we were having a little bit of a rough time. Physically, we didn't feel well. I was going through some depression and anxiety, and we were like up to our eyebrows in debt. So we knew we had to do something. And in my mind, I kept going back to this home of my grandparents and that feeling of the homesteading, and it just felt right.
It brings solace. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And I think that we all want to go to a place in our mind of somewhere that brings us comfort and love. And I think that's a lot of people go back to those memories and say, this feels like heart to me, and I want to go back there. So what made you then decide on Wisconsin to Arizona?
Well, part of that was the economic downturn. I was laid off, and property was so cheap in Arizona. We bought our house for an incredibly low price, and then it was actually cheaper to buy a house than it was to rent in Wisconsin. So that's how we ended up in Arizona. Then with her research, wanting to get into kind of homesteading, kind of being off the grid, we decided it'd be a good idea to get some land so we can kind of start this venture. And she compiled, and we knew through research, Cochise County was definitely one of the places that we wanted to build, because we wanted to kind of do some unconventional building, and Cochise had the least restrictions. So we compiled a list, and then we took a weekend and we we took a road trip and just explored the lands, and just to get a personal view of how each of these properties looked. And when we came across this one, it was just, I mean, it was meant to be. We knew that this is one where we wanted to settle.
So if you would explain to the viewers, what does your property look like? And I know many people probably have been on your YouTube channel and got a feel of that, but if people haven't seen your YouTube videos, if you would just kind of paint a picture a little bit, what is that? What does your land look like? What does the terrain look like? What's the culture, the flavor of living there?
Yeah, so we live in Arizona, and I think when you hear Arizona, a lot of people think central Arizona, where, you know, it's very hot, and, you know, we are in a desert, but we're in the southeast part of Arizona, and the elevation is a lot higher, so we're a lot cooler. We do get a bit more rain than in central Arizona, and I think our land kind of starts to venture from desert into slightly kind of a more of a grassland. It's kind of like right in between there. We actually have quite a bit of grass growing out here, which is kind of unusual for the area.
Mhm.
You know, we don't have the tall cactuses like you might see in central Arizona.
We do have some of the desert scrub, you know, and then it's kind of on the cusp of the grasslands, and probably maybe 20 miles from the nearest mountains.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting area, and we live on 40 acres.
Sounds beautiful. What kind of animals do you get out there? Do you see, I'm sure you see a lot of wildlife, and I know you see the snakes.
Mhm.
I know I've seen that you have a lot of the snake visitors.
Yeah, we got rattlesnakes.
Scorpions, tarantulas, javelinas, which are like this pig-like animal.
It's what? What is that?
It kind of looks like a pig.
Really? What's it
But it's
called?
javelina.
Okay.
And we get deer coming through here, and of course cows. A lot of cows roaming around.
Yeah, me too. I have that same kind of terrain. Not as quite as deserty, but very arid and lots of cows. So I'm in ranching country as well. So what have you built so far on the property to date?
Um, so we built our humanure hacienda. That was one of the first things we built because we needed to do something with our waste. We don't plan on having any type of traditional septic, so that's kind of how we deal with that. We built a shed out of it's a stick and frame stick, kind of like a timber frame, but it's also filled out with kind of like a fiber adobe, which is shredded paper and mud. And that houses all of our solar. We built our own solar rack for our panels and hooked that up, so we're pretty much 100% on solar energy right now, which is nice.
Very
We built
exciting.
we built a 2,200 square foot roof, uh, partly for shade, but mostly for collecting rainwater. And man, we got a lot of water during the last monsoon season.
Nice. Nice. I know you're working on plans for the house coming up, but it's a lot of work you guys did out there. So what are the future plans for the homestead?
We're going to keep expanding from here. Obviously, the house is the next big project for us. And beyond that, it will be just providing for our food needs. So garden spaces, animals, and just
Okay.
growing.
And what would you say your biggest successes to date?
I feel like our biggest success was the rain roof. I mean, it was such a huge project to undertake. And we've done it all by ourselves with hand tools, doing the digging and everything like that. And to see it successfully get so much water, it was just a huge blessing, and it definitely felt like a huge win.
Yeah, to be able to live off of rainwater in the desert.
It's amazing. Very commendable. Very commendable. Yeah. What about, so with the rainwater, what about your gardening? Tell us about your garden and how you were successful at growing a garden out in the desert. Because people think of Arizona and being the desert, like, how are you ever going to grow anything? And I think that Rain Roof probably really assisted in you becoming successful with that. And every year that's going to get better. But share with the viewers how you attempted to start that garden and what kind of success you had with it.
Yeah, so we had to build a structure for our garden to protect it from animals, but also to serve as a support for shade. And, you know, in the heat of the summer, the plants definitely need that shade. So it was
with the structure, what kind of roofing did you put? Was it opaque? Or was it more of a netting material that you put on the structure, like a shade cloth, or was it more like a polycarbonate? What kind of structure did you use for the roofing of that?
So we just put it was like a field fencing, a wire field fencing over the top, and then a shade cloth over that.
Nice.
And we went for like a certain percentages, right? For like over the top and the sides.
Yeah, so the western side has the most shade, and over the top about a 50% shade cloth.
And then, so when you say 50%, that means that it allows for 50% of the light to break through. Is that correct? Is that what you mean? And then on the western side, it's 90% coverage?
Yes.
Yeah, that western sun really takes a beating on the plants. So what percentage of food would you say that you brought in this year?
Almost nothing.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. Learning experience.
Yeah, part of it was just, I mean, we had to build everything, so everything just got started late.
No, we had no expectations of it providing much food for us this year. Really wanted just a small space as like a test garden.
Absolutely.
To see what it was like growing in this climate at this location, which is going to be really important for us to know going forward for our future plans.
Absolutely. Yeah, everything is trial and error. Tell me a little bit about the bees. I love the whole experience with the bees. So share with the viewers how the whole bee situation came to be that you weren't even expecting.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely was an adventure. Because, you know, we built that shed and they found the tiniest little cracks inside the foundation of the shed, and they moved in, just a wild swarm. Actually, in a couple different places, right?
Yes, there were actually two at one point.
And you know, we hired someone to attempt to relocate them, but they ended up trying to exterminate them, which isn't quite really what we wanted. But they ended up surviving that encounter. And instead of trying to call someone else to relocate them, we decided to take the matter into our own hands. So we did the research, we got busy building our own hives, picked up the necessary bee equipment, and then, you know, we did it. We cut into the floor of the shed.
You guys did such a great job with that.
You know, we built a bee vacuum to suck them up, which was kind of safer for us, kind of safer for the bees. And then we were able to get them into the hive and relocate them into the spot there.
Do we have any idea what type of bees these are? Just
I
curious.
don't think there's any way to know for sure. Everything that we've read and everyone we've talked to have said that in Arizona, any wild bees have been Africanized. So
They
they're,
have been Africanized?
yeah, so there's a good chance that they are an Africanized variety.
But the thing that we've learned though, as the Africanized genes continue to proliferate over the area and mixing with the genes from the other bees, they're actually becoming less aggressive. And these bees that we have here are very docile. And yeah, I think they start getting more irritated the closer you get to like the brood comb. But I mean, you've been able to do it. I mean, we haven't gotten stung once in all these activities.
Now, did you buy the gear and your body protective suits and everything, or have you
Yeah.
done that? I can't remember if it was that if I seen that or not.
So
Yep.
we
Oh,
have
you
gloves,
did?
nails, and suits.
Okay. Because I was going to say that might be pretty scary going out there and not being protected. Yeah.
Well,
So, I mean, I
yeah,
know a lot of people do once you become accustomed to your hive and your behaviors and everything, but starting out where you started off and not knowing what was going to happen with these bees, I'm like, that's pretty scary going out there trying to
well,
attempt to relocate them without that.
yeah, the crazy thing is, I mean, the first time we got the bees out, we were all geared up, but they tried getting back into the shed, so we had to suck them up again. And that time we did it with I think just gloves. And otherwise we were unprotected while we were sucking them out
Wow.
again.
Tell me about, you actually just posted a cute little video about your compost, your toilets, your composting toilets. So didn't you? I just recently seen one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you doing something new with the composting toilets?
Yes and no. So we've been using the composting system from the Human Manure Handbook. We've been using that for about 1.5 years now.
Now,
And
can you explain actually what that is? I mean, I know what it is, but if you would explain how the system works, and is it inside or is it outside?
so we have it's just a simple, like, for the inside for the toilet, it's just a simple box with a bucket. The actual compost is on the outside. You build like just some bins to house the compost. The stuff from the bucket goes out into the compost when you're
So
ready. And
you're using the three tiered system, right?
yep.
Okay.
So
So
then, yeah. So then when one bin fills up, then you start your second bin, and when that one fills up, then you go back to the first one. And the first one usually sits for about 1 year. It takes 1 year to build it up, and then it sits for a year before you use it.
so is it an actual 2-year process then?
Yep.
Okay. After the 2-year, do you actually move the whole station and utilize what's there, or do you actually move the compost to your gardens at that point after 2 years?
Yeah, you can then remove the compost from the first bin and start utilizing that, and then you can start the whole bin over again.
And so the composting toilet that you have in the house, you just put the sawdust or the chips, whatever you're using, and then just cover the waste, right? And then you dump that into your 3-tiered system.
Yep. I mean, we've tried a bunch of different cover material, but for us, straw, I think, was
Straw
really
is the best?
shredded straw. It's one of the cheaper things, and it worked really well.
Cool.
But it
Okay.
depends. I think it depends on your area and what you got. I mean, some people like the sawdust, and if you can get sawdust for free, I mean, more power to you.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Good. I haven't heard of the straw. So do you actually, is there another technique can you just like break it off the bale, or do you actually have to shred it again or do something different with it?
Yeah, because one thing is for the human manure compost system, you definitely want to use straw and not hay or anything like that for building your outside pile. But when you're using it for cover material on the inside, you want it a little bit finer to get a little bit more coverage.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Tell me about the building techniques that you're using with when you start with the house. How are we, well, you used it also, I think, for your shed. What is that technique called, or is there a name for it, or is it the straw bale, or is it considered an earth ship? What is it
No,
called?
it's a earth bag.
Earth bag. So is it
Yeah.
earth? So after you're done building with an earth bag, is it called then an earth ship? Just wondering.
Well,
I think there'd be a differentiation.
yeah, earth
Mhm.
ship is usually kind of done a lot with like recycled materials.
Okay.
You'll see it built with like old tires, glass
Bottles.
bottles, and stuff.
Okay.
So it's a little different.
A little different. Okay. And so the earth bag technique is mostly used with this loading the bag with sand, correct? And then you build
Yeah,
up the structure with the earth bags, and then it's covered with another material.
yeah. So it's filled, and we'll be able to use the soil right from the ground to fill the bags. That's layered. We're going to be building in domes because not only will that be the cheapest way to build, but also be one of the sturdiest. If you're going to build with earth bag, I mean, I see people do building square buildings with it. We're pretty clay heavy. I think it's at least 30% clay volume in the soil. But if we need to, we can also mix some sand in there, and maybe even adding a bit of lime as stabilizer to the bags.
Okay. And are you self-educated about this, or did you take a class, or how did you figure out how you were going to do this?
Lots of
Did you just
books.
read a book? Did you read a book? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we got one on earth bag building, kind of a newer one. We also got one by Nader Khalili, the inventor of the earth bag kind of super adobe system.
And you've participated a little bit in some
Oh yeah,
workshops.
and I did participate in some workshops. There is someone that nearby that has built like a few domes herself, and she's held workshops. So I got some hands-on experience.
Great. Awesome. Very nice. Tell me about your solar system. They look very intimidating to me. They do. I so much would love to be on solar. Um, yep, that's my story. So tell me about, like, did you buy a kit? Did you do it yourself? Did someone come and hook it up for you? Did you buy each one separately, and did you start small, or did you buy the whole kit at one time?
Solar can be intimidating, and it took a lot of. I did a lot of reading on it, and and then eventually I just had to push forward and get things done. And I kind of based the design quite a bit on one of our neighbors, so that helped a lot. But actually getting into the nuts and bolts of putting it together, it wasn't too bad. So I got 15 320 watt panels, built the rack for that, ran the wiring. I hooked up the panels myself. I had to buy the wiring, make the MC4 connectors to connect all the panels together. I wired that into the combiner box, and then I ran the wire from there into our shed. And then I did get help from our neighbor, Derek Howlett, came out here and helped me wire all the inside components. So we wired it into the yeah, it gets wired into the charge controller. From the charge controller to the inverters, we have two inverters because at the time we had like not only us out here, but her aunt and her brother. So we wanted to make sure we were able to draw enough power from there safely without overloading anything. So we can draw about 7,000 watts running and up to I think 14,000 burst watts. So the two inverters was nice. And then we're using 4 Tesla Model S batteries for storage. It gives us about 20 kilowatt hours worth of storage, which has been really nice for us as well.
Jessica, do you have understanding of this?
Not as in-depth, but basic understanding of the components and things.
Yeah, it seems like it's a pretty big learning curve. What about your water system? I know you built the roof. You got that all in place.
When we turn the water on, then we can just gravity feed it in. I didn't want to set up any kind of system like that for here because we knew this was going to be a temporary living situation.
Yeah.
So when we do set up for our house, I'll probably dig a trench and run pipes from our tank over to the house, gravity feed it in, and use a pump for running water.
Yeah, every step of the way it gets a little bit easier, you know. So
What we're doing right now is probably a little more inconvenient than most people would like, but I think it'll be better once we build the house.
yeah. Hey, it's baby steps, you know. Yeah, for sure. Tell me, if you could sum up, well, then we're going to be wrapping up. So if you can sum up in one word what the homesteading experience has meant to you, what would that be?
Well, for me, I would say adventure.
Okay.
I don't know if you wanted me to kind of expound on that.
Elaborate a little bit on that.
I mean,
Just a little.
So, I mean, coming out here, kind of the middle of nowhere, without, without having the electrical experience, without not being carpenters, everything here has been a learning experience. There's been a lot of challenges, and it's been amazing to get out there and to meet those head on. And and it's not this paradise that we're out here. It's not like it's all sunshine and roses all the time. There's a lot of hardships and there's a lot of setbacks to deal with, but it's all part of the learning and the growing,
The journey.
the journey.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Jessica, what about you? You got a word?
I was thinking dream. We are the Green Dream Project. But I mean, that's how it started, as this dream of what could be. And I think that dream gives us something to really work toward, through those challenges and hard times, just holding on to that dream and trying to make that a reality.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I so appreciate you taking your time out and interviewing with me. It's been a wonderful interview. And I look forward to chatting with you again in the future. So I would like to actually, if you wouldn't mind, I would like to continue to follow you on your YouTube, on your journey. And I would like to meet with you again and interview again in the near future and follow your progress and share that with our viewers, because I just think that what you're doing is absolutely amazing.